Good afternoon, everybody. This is Rich Church-Keane with the Rugbyunited As Yet Untitled podcast. As Yet Untitled appears to have become the name of this podcast because I can't think of a decent name for it. You can find me on Twitter at richc_k. Normal bit of housekeeping there for you. So what's been happening in the wide world of rugby this week? Well, I'm only really going to cover some bits of news and everything else. You'll have Andrew Richardson will be online as last week. We'll put his podcast up for the Pro 12. So we'll have that covered. I'm just going to do a bit of a natter, really. I couldn't start this week without saying thank you, a massive thank you to everybody who retweeted, shared, liked, followed, commented on, and genuinely gave me good feedback on the Courtney Laws blog I did last week. So Jeff Powell from the Daily Mail, if you haven't seen it, basically was saying that Courtney Laws was too rough to play rugby. It was the most ill-informed article ever. If you go over to blog.rugbyunited.info, I believe it is, you can find the blog there. It's just called the Jeff Powell article or my response or something. But it's literally, I took the paragraphs from his article and just put a counterpoint up for everything. There's no word of a lie. There was David Rose, the referee, was retweeting it and talked to me about it. Lewis Moody had favourited it. Courtney Laws himself had favourited it. Tyndall retweeted it. Eliota Fuimanu-Sapolu retweeted it. There was just a ton of professional rugby bodies that retweeted it. But the main thing was, of course, the people of Rugbyunited retweeted it. And it just went absolutely mental. I had literally 3 days with. I probably advertised it half a dozen times myself, but there was just a sea of messages coming through to me. All but one, I believe, was supporting my stance on the article, and even the one that was supporting the article just really said, "I agree with what you're saying, but he had a point. Should we be celebrating a big hit? Big hits have happened in rugby for years. We can't take that out of the game." That was basically my response to it. But yeah, hashtag Jeff's a knob, sir. That was the hashtag from it. If you haven't read it, go and give it a read. It's my favourite blog I've ever written, but the numbers on it, I had 2,500 and something. It was over 2,500 reads. Just to put it in context, on a good month, that's our blog readership for the month. We had that on a weekend. We had that from the Saturday, Sunday, and part of the Monday. That was just stunning figures. From my own back, I donated £20 to the Matt Hampson Foundation on behalf of the people who read the blog, because I was so pleased with the amount of how everybody took it on board and the amount of retweets and everything we got. And yeah, it was fantastic. There is going to be, talking to the blog, I'll talk about some domestic stuff for us first. There's a good chance that through the blog and through possibly retweets of the blog, we're going to be starting to offer some prizes. Maybe not every blog, but certainly we're going to be trying to do it. I'm in talks with somebody at the minute. I don't even think I've told Trevor this yet. I'm in talks with somebody at the minute who they work for a lot of small companies that are all to do with rugby, and they're looking for an outlet to promote them. So they've come to me and said, would we promote some of the products, and they'd give us a cut of the money. Now, because Rugbyunited don't make any money, we can't take any money. We all have other jobs. It would kill us tax wise. Because we can't do it, I said no to the money. But what I have asked for is if they give us some sample products, I can give them away as prizes. I can do a blog, and then at the bottom it will just say, "Oh, Johnny's Rugby Crash Hats," or something like that, and it'll just be a little bit about them, a picture of the article, where you can buy it from. I don't want to do intrusive advertising. I certainly don't want to have Rich's Rugby Ramblings blog brought to you by Sue's Rugby lemon-flavoured dildos or anything like that. Oh, that was a really random thing to think of, but especially Sue's my mum. Oh no, horrible thoughts. I might have to edit this blog heavily. Yeah, so lost my train of thought now. Yeah, but we're going to start offering things through the blog. It's as a thank you to the people who read it, because we do have, I can't keep saying I, because Gemma and Trevor have both blogged this week. We have the guest bloggers as well. But we do have so many people that read the blog every time there's one goes up. I've been busy this week. There's been nothing really I've done on it since last Friday. I think I did one on Sunday, which was a returning theme 15, which on the poll that we ran was one of the things people wanted to see back. They wanted to see more rants and they wanted to see more of the theme 15. So that's what I'm going to start doing. So we did that, and then I know Gemma's had one on there. It was courtesy of Adidas. Trevor's put one on. Can't remember off the top of my head what it was about, but there's been a few blogs on there this week. But I haven't even done the predictions game this week. I couldn't find an opponent. I was absolutely hammered at work Monday and Tuesday. I've been doing long hours, learning new stuff for the day job, so I haven't had a chance to do that. The predictions game, touch wood, the results from last week will go up tonight. Next week will just be next week's game because I haven't got an opponent for this week. I'm not going to race out to do it. I was going to ask my dad, but he's away on holiday this week, so can't even do that. So yeah, with that out of the way, anyway, thank you everybody for reading the blog. That's essentially what I wanted to say, and I've spoke for nearly 6 minutes on it. So, concussions have reared their ugly, sore and dizzy heads this week. If you go on to pretty much any rugby news site, you'll find the story of Nathan Hughes' red card from last week. Personally, Nate, if you haven't seen the incident, I'll try and find a clip and insert it on the YouTube video now. Basically, George North dived into the corner. Nathan Hughes was running to defend, but didn't seem to make any effort to avoid North, and he's hit him with possibly a shin or a knee to the head, and it just knocked North out cold. So they've ruled North out of the Claremont match this weekend. Northampton, that is, have ruled him out. And Nathan Hughes, I think, ended up with a 3-week ban. I predicted 2, so I didn't do too badly with that. It wasn't malicious. It wasn't a vicious foul. It's not like he kicked him in the face or anything like that. It was clumsy, it was reckless, and it was against the laws of the game. So I haven't got a problem with the ban. I haven't got a problem with the red card. There was myself and Neil Fissler from the Rugby paper were kind of fending everybody off with shitty sticks because we seemed to be the only people that were like, well, it was a red card. Reckless use of the boot is a red card. That's what he got. Even though it wasn't the boot that hit, it's the leg. But never mind. So yeah, he's had a 3-week ban, but one of the ones that especially in England hadn't been seen was in the Ulster game against Cardiff, I believe it was last week. The Ulster number 8, Williams, basically gave a good old-fashioned WWE-style forearm shot to Rhys Patchell at a ruck and knocked him out cold. Patchell was actually hospitalised for it. Williams has been banned for 8 weeks for that. It's another one, if you see it in slow motion, it looks worse. It looks like he swung his arm at him. If you watch it in real time, I don't think it looks as bad. Definitely an 8-week ban. He definitely hit him with the forearm. He goes in with his arm almost by his side. But when they slow it down, it does look bad. But, I mean, as well with the concussion, Mike Brown obviously was concussed for England. He said he's still feeling the effects and he's very cautious over the concussion. That's weeks later. And Lee Halfpenny, who was concussed in the last game of the Six Nations, he's making his comeback this week. And it just seems that there's no consistency with the treatment levels of concussion. I've never got any kind of problem with someone getting a ban for a headshot. I think they're terrible. I think we're going down the road of rugby league if that's the way, because I'm not being funny, but rugby league, they go headhunting. They go for shoulders to head, and they've tried to take that out of their game because of the concussion. But it's just a danger. I've had concussions myself playing. They're horrible things. And it's something the World Rugby needs to sort out. I know the World Rugby doctor actually resigned over the fact that they were reducing the protocol from a 3-week ban to an individual case thing. So people could literally be back the week after having a concussion, which is extremely dangerous. I'm not going to explain what a concussion is because I'm not a doctor. If you want to know, go and have a look at the effects of concussion on Wikipedia or something. It's a fucking horrible thing. Excuse my language, but it is. It's terrible. It's not just, it's a bit of a headache. It's not. It's a brain injury. It's you feel sick. You feel dizzy. You got no equilibrium. You can't stand up properly if you get a bad one. It's a really dangerous thing, and World Rugby need to act on that. So. Yeah, that's the last thing I'm going to say on that because I don't think anyone's going to disagree with me. Kevin Sinfield, Leeds Rhinos. having mentioned rugby league in the last article, he's announced that he's quitting rugby league for rugby union. Now, I thought this was an April Fool's joke, but it was actually March the 31st, so it wasn't. Sinfield is going to be playing for whatever they're called now. What are they called in Leeds these days? Yorkshire Carnegie, I believe it is. Which is, he's a big name. He's not the youngest guy out there, but I like to see it. It's a guy that wants to come over and try his hand at a new sport. It might be a success, it might not be. There's been people come over at the end of their careers before. I know Martin Afire and Sean Long. I know he said Shane Long. He's a footballer. Sean Long came over at the end of their career. Obviously, Andy Farrell did, but his injuries with him. But Sinfield signed 18 months with Yorkshire Carnegie, which is really good, I think. He's 34 years old, so he's not going to be a big England international. He's not going to help us win the World Cup or anything like that. He's just coming over to try his hand at a new sport. Highly commended. Welcome to a proper sport of rugby, Mr. Sinfield. I don't think what else news there was. The Premiership was back in action last week. There was obviously the Northampton versus I can't remember who they were playing. Northampton versus Wasps game opened the weekend with a thumping 52-30 win for Northampton, but obviously the Nathan Hughes first half red card played a part in that. Controversial, yada yada, move on. Saracens beat Quins quite handily, 42-14. What's going on with Quins? They've got all these international players, but they just don't seem to be able to play in the Premiership at the minute. Leicester beat Exeter. Some people may call it an upset. I called that one. I think Leicester are a much better side than we give them credit for. They didn't start the season well, but they've got players back from injury now, and they're going great guns. London Irish beat Newcastle 22-21. Two very, very much improved teams. London Irish one to watch next year. They've made some incredible signings already. London Welsh 14, Bath 29. People will see that one as a good result for Welsh. They were only 9 points off of a bonus point out of that game. Their only bonus point, of course, this season coming from a try bonus against Bath. London Welsh now officially relegated, everybody. I know that's a shock at this stage of the season. We were all expecting them to be a top four side, and yeah, no, we weren't. Are London Welsh the worst side ever to play in the Premiership? Tweet me at richc_k. Let me know. I think personally they are. I think the stats don't lie. Don't think it's anything to do with the parachute payments and the lack of money. I think they're just a bad side that were badly coached. They were put together with trying to sign stars and put them into a team. It didn't really work out for them. Their marquee signing was Piri Wepu, a man who's 5 years past his best, who's now actually moved on to Wasps. There's the big number 8 whose name I can't pronounce. Petit Falou. Is that yogurt or is that a rugby player? He's moving to Leicester next season. He's a massive monster, that guy. But yeah, it's just badly thought out, badly planned side. They didn't expect to go up, threw a side together. It shows. They're just not a good team. Very sorry, London Welsh fans. But definitely for me, the worst teams that ever play in the Premiership. Their points haul and their average points per game and average points conceded per game, they all speak volumes about how the season's gone. They're just not good. Last match of the weekend to talk about was Sale against Gloucester. It was an odd game. I've watched the highlights back now. Sale were very much on top at the breakdown, and pretty much in every area of the game, Sale were on top. But the second half, Gloucester just seemed to get a penalty, attack Sale, Sale would defend it, Gloucester would make a mistake, and it ended up with a 23-6 victory for Sale. Gloucester's good start to the year seems to have gone for a Burton now. Personally, as a Gloucester fan, I think we'll probably win one more game this season. I don't think we've got anything to play for. We're fighting out with Harlequins for 8th spot, which is like trying to win the pole vault at a school for dwarves, isn't it, really? It's not going to go well. There's nothing really riding on it apart from the prize money. So that was that. That was the Premiership. I won't round up the Pro 12, and as I always say, I don't watch Super 15, so I can't comment on that. I am actually hoping that we're going to get, Andrew does for the Pro 12. I'm going to ask Matt Leddingham, if you might know him on Twitter, sport_RSA. I'm going to ask him if he'll do... I haven't asked him yet. He might find out from this here blog. I'm going to ask him if he'll do a Super Rugby Roundup weekly. We'll break it into 3 podcasts. You can have my rambling one, and then I'll possibly, rather than do it on Spreaker, I might do it through SoundCloud, and we'll have the extras, we'll have the Pro 12, and we'll have the Super Rugby separate. And we'll see how that goes, see if we can work something out with that. But yeah, I mean, I'm just having a quick look at the rugby news this week. There's not really a lot else there. There's been a couple of signings with Tim Visser and Adam Jones going to Harlequins, and big rumours of Jamie Roberts. Conor O'Shea, I think, has actually admitted that they've been in talks with Jamie Roberts. The Adam Jones signing would have excited me 3 or 4 years ago. I don't think he's the player he was. I don't think he's the player the Quins fans think he's going to be. There's a reason he wasn't playing for Wales, and that's because he's not one of their best props anymore. Looking through all the bluster of, well, he might come out of retirement to play. He didn't, and Wales went out and they absolutely stormed the game against Italy, so they didn't miss him, did they? Samson Lee will have that shirt back when he's back from his injury. But Jamie Roberts definitely is an exciting one, and of course Tim Visser, I think 4 years running, he's been the Pro 12 top scorer. That's a good signing for Quins, especially with losing Ugo Monye to television. So yeah, I mean, there's not really many more signings. Jeff Cross has shaved his massive year-long growth of beard off. Miles Benjamin's out for the season injured, as is Kyle Sinclair. There's a couple of signings. Mike Blair for Glasgow. Our Hip re-signed at the Ospreys. Alex Brown, the prop from Exeter, he's re-signed there. But yeah, there's not really a lot else to go with news this week. So with that in mind, I'm going to round the podcast off here. Thank you for joining me yet again. YouTube video to come later on. I'll have to put that one together. I've got something to do now, so it won't be until later on this evening. But yeah, so remember to check me out on Twitter. I keep giving the link. It's at richc_k. I've just broke 3,000 followers on Twitter, which is a lot more than I ever thought I'd get. It's fantastic. I'm only about 20 behind Neil Fissler at the Rugby Paper. I really want to be having more than a proper journalist, rather than me who wings it. So, you know, get people to follow me, basically. I will try and follow everyone back, as long as they're a rugby-related account and it's not spam. You can also check the blogs out, blog.rugbyunited.info or / no, it's definitely blog.rugbyunited.info is the blog. The predictions game blog will be going up there tonight as well. I might even throw in a bit of a ranty blog. I might even launch the prize giving blog. I don't know. There's so much to think of. But yeah, so thanks for listening everyone, and I will catch you next week or on Twitter, whichever is where I see you. Bye!
Hi there, it's me at Rugby Ulster. Here to give you a quick roundup of what the goings on in the Guinness Pro 12 this week. Let's start with last week's games. Fantastic weekend of rugby, as we're starting to are now expecting the Guinness Pro 12. The game of the weekend, I said last weekend in the Pro 12 podcast, was Leinster v Glasgow. I thought this was going to be the game for the neutral, and it really did disappoint. Leinster 34, Glasgow 34. But what really makes this game impressive was Glasgow were 7 points up at half time. In front of 16,000 people, Leinster turned it on and lived up to their name of #Leinstertainment. It was fantastic to watch, and to be honest, I honestly think that 34-all was probably a fair result. A draw was probably fair. Isaac Boss, man of the match, and very, very, very well deserved in my opinion. Ulster v Cardiff. This was the game I watched, obviously, instead of that one straight off. Ulster ran out 36-17 winners. It was definitely the Louis Ludick show that night. Man of the match was Paddy Jackson, and again in front of about 16,000 people. So at half time, honestly, I thought Cardiff had been blown away. I honestly did. Ulster 18, Cardiff Blues nil. The game was massively overshadowed for Nick Williams making illegal contact to the head of Reece Patchell. Now, at the time, I honestly thought that it was an unintentional mistake. I didn't think he'd deliberately gone in to injure the player. And to be fair, I still don't believe he went in to injure the player. It was against the rules. He did go in and broke the laws, and quite rightly went off the field for 10 minutes. He's now been subsequently cited. And I honestly can't say that I blame the citing commissioner for that. Obviously, Cardiff Blues fans and other Welsh fans actually jumped straight on Twitter to attack me for it, and I can understand their frustration with Nick Williams. The good news is Reece Patchell is now up and walking, running around the place. I say running around the place, but he's now up and he's back at home. Sam Warburton very nicely took to Twitter to welcome him back and to say, that he's glad he's back on his feet. But Louis Ludic, what a game that man had. No rust in him. He's had a bit of mixed season really. He's either absolutely exceptional or very, very good. But he was just fantastic. The other slight down point on that was Stuart Olding leaving the field after only 2 minutes on it, and the forcing Reece Patchell off. Like I say, I'm very, very glad to see Reece Patchell is back up and running around the place. The next game up was Scarlets Edinburgh. Now, Scarlets Edinburgh, I said last week, was the match I couldn't call. I thought it was going to be a bit too tight, and it really didn't disappoint. Sam Hildo-Klein, man of the match. Only 7,000 people. That might be something that the Welsh regions have to deal with. Scarlets 15, Edinburgh 17 at half time. And it runs out. So Scarlets completely scoreless in the second half, and Edinburgh just run away with it. Again, a bit disappointed if I was a Scarlets fan and I'd seen that. And I'd paid good money to go see that. The Munster game, Munster v Connacht. As I said again in last week's podcast, Munster at home are just too strong for a lot of teams, and it's little change. Even an up and coming side like Connacht Rugby, and big signings happening there. Well, Munster run out 42-20 winners. It was 7-3 at half time, so they really turned it on in the second half. 18,000 people were down there at Thorman Park. CJ Sandy, your man of the match. What a game to watch, though, the second half. It just showed the Munster that we remember from 3 or 4 years ago. Ospreys, 53-22 against Zebra. Now, they'd won that by half-time. They'd won it by half-time. It was 27-8. 6,500 people there in Wales to watch them do that. Sam Davies, the man of the match. Sam Davies, he's coming up an awful lot recently, and as I go on through the podcast, you'll understand why. Again, not a very hugely attended match, but I think this will come. The Welsh regions, the second they start, if Ospreys come up through this playoffs, which they are very, very likely to at the moment, we might see that jump up again. Newport Gwent Dragons against Benetton Treviso. Benetton, as I said last week, are a banana skin side. They really are. They tripped up Ulster earlier this year. They've had a good couple of wins. They upset Munster at Benetton. They really took them hard into the line, and Newport went out 32-17 winners. At 17-0 at half time. Treviso were never coming to come back. So what does that then mean for the table? Well, the top 5, there is no change. Glasgow, Ulster, Munster, Ospreys, Leinster. The only thing that has changed, due to the fantastic game down at the RDS, Leinster and Glasgow share the spoils and make Glasgow a little bit more catchable. Glasgow lead the table at the moment on 60 points, Ulster 58, Munster 58, Ospreys 56. Interesting about the Ulster-Munster, it's only on the points difference, and Ulster only ahead by 2 points in the points difference as well. So that could change. One good win for Munster, one bad result for Ulster, and that can all change. A couple of moves and changes in the middle of the pack. Zebra Treviso bolted to the bottom. Dragons and the Blues swap places, and Edinburgh and Scarlets swap places. Now, just very, very quickly, there's something I discovered during the commentary of Ulster v Cardiff Blues, and it was all brought up because of the Nick Williams yellow card and the Van der Merwe yellow card. And Ulster Rugby, the Guinness Pro 12 have a separate league, and that is the Specsavers Fair Play League. You get 1 point for each yellow card, 3 points for each red card, or upheld citing complaint. So if you've got that in your head, so for example, Leinster massively out on top. They've got 4 yellow cards and 1 proven citing, puts them on 7 points. Contrast that directly to Ulster Rugby, who are nailed to the bottom of that league. 8 yellow cards, 2 red cards, 3 proven sightings. We have more proven sightings than anybody else. More. The maximum proven sightings any one team have is Leinster have 1, Munster have 1, Glasgow have 1, Newport Gwent Dragons 1, Scarlets 1, Ulster Rugby 3. This has got to stop. The management have got to see this table and be very, very disgusted with themselves. It's not good enough. The fact that we've got a fair play league, I think, is brilliant, because what that's going to do is the winners of that fair play league are going to get given 10 grand to spend on their youth development, and that's only good news. I think that is good news. But Ulster Rugby nailed to the bottom of that. I would be Neil Doak and be very, very cross. So what's happening around the leagues? Well, in Scotland, Mike Blair has now signed for Cardiff. Alistair Kellogg's already gone to Twitter to say that's really good news, and I have to agree. I think that's really good news for Glasgow, and certainly the Warrior Nation will really enjoy Mike Blair coming back. Tim Visser is now leaving Edinburgh Rugby to go to Harlequins. This has got quite big coverage over Twitter recently in the last couple of weeks, and I think this come at the right time really for Tim Visser. I think Harlequins are trying to change. They're bringing in a load of players this season for next season, and Tim Visser I think will suit the Guinness Premiership quite well. Not the Guinness Premiership, sorry, I haven't lied to you, the Aviva Premiership. I think Tim Visser will do really well there. So fair play Timbo Visser, as you've lovingly been nicknamed by Edinburgh fans. You should go down there very, very well. In terms of the Irish League, Stuart Oldham, very, very sad, as we've said. 2 minutes on the pitch and off for 9 months. It's ridiculous. It's really quite scary, that. Big news in terms of Ulster. Charlie Piutau from the All Blacks is now going to be an Ulsterman. Huge signing. Absolutely monster signing. And I'd like to think that the IRFU have maybe been involved in that move. But he's a very, very highly rated player, and he's a utility back. He is a great utility back. He can play at centre, full back, or the wing. If you don't believe me, jump on YouTube. There is a plethora of videos playing homage to Charlie, as he no doubt will be known by the Ulster faithful. It's a huge signing. Absolutely delighted to hear it, and I quite like it because it's going to put a couple of the backs under a bit of pressure. So that's going to be great news. In the Welsh, Patchell, Rhys Patchell, as we said, it was horrific. He was down on the ground for too long. No serious rugby fan likes to see that. Nobody does. Rhys Patchell has been a phenomenal finding for Cardiff Blues. He's great to watch. He seems to have an eternity on the ball. A fantastic kicker. And I wish him all the best. I really do. I want to see Rhys Patchell playing again. He's going to miss the Blues and the Dragons tie, which is a massive shame. Ian Goff has now been cleared of assaulting his ex-girlfriend. So that's good news for him. It means he can get back to concentrating on his rugby. I think the most serious one for the Welsh, certainly not for the Welsh regional teams, but certainly for the Welsh national team, is George North is going to see a neurosurgeon. And that can only be a good thing. Nobody likes to see George. I think this is his third concussion in the space of a month. This cannot be good, and it does need to be locked out. Ospreys, Haberfield has now signed a new deal with Ospreys. Again, Ospreys fan love that guy, so that's got to be good. Leicester have released a price to go to the Scarlets, and Falato is very happy at the Dragons. Now, I don't know why happy has been put into inverted commas on pretty much every report I've seen about this week, but he's happy at the Dragons. So can we see Falatal suddenly leave the Dragons? It's very, very possible. One of the things that I wanted to do as well this week was go through some of our leading point scorers. Round 18 was absolutely fantastic in terms of the rugby played. So, update on our leading point scorers. Sam Davies, Ospreys, 130 points. That's 14 conversions, 2 drop goals and 32 penalties. What a guy. Ian Madigan closely followed up with 127. Ian Keatley, 123. Steve Shingler, 119. And Dan Bigger at 117. It's very, very great to see that there's a mixture there, but we need some Scotsmen in. Come on, Scottish teams, let's go. Let's get it going. In terms of your top leading try scorers, Craig Gilroy with 9. Rhys Webb, I'm not shocked by that. He was absolutely fantastic for Wales. He's one of those horrible whippy scrum halves that basically every prop loves. Hallen Amos, CJ Sander and DTH Van der Merwe with 6 points. Now, I was quite surprised the next one. The next stat is the most appearances. And I'm very, very surprised to see how many people have got the full 18 appearances. So Dennis Buckley, Connacht, Dan Evans from Ospreys, David Giazon, I can't pronounce his name, so I apologise to any Zebra fans out there, 18. Jimmy Gothpeth, 18. Fantastic for a back to be up there. And John Muldoon, 18. So, and the leading marksman. So this is the presumably from the boot. So successful conversions and penalties. Ian Keatley out in front of 47, very closely followed up by Sam Davies on 46. 43 for Dan Bigger, 43 for Steve Shingler, and Ian Madigan on 42. So it's very, very tight in our league at the moment, and that's great to see. And I just don't think that the Viva has got the nail-biting excitement that we have at the moment, and I think that's fantastic for our game. A bit of sad news. A very, very good Ulster Rugby supporters group went live there the other day, and what basically happened was she asked for assistance. She asked for friends and family of Ulster Rugby supporters to go to social media, ring friends, ring family in South Africa to try and run a blood donation for a hospital near Durban. I saw this and I immediately wanted to help, because I know this is something that Twitter is especially good for. So Joe Kennedy of the Ulster Rugby Supporters Club was asking for blood to be donated to the I cannot pronounce it, Efqueni hospital near Durban. Sadly, somebody lost their life, and his wife was then very, very fighting for her life and needed blood transfusions. Unfortunately, the hospital only had 4 days of blood left. So I took to Twitter, and Twitter's response was absolutely incredible. Rugby South Africa, Sports Rugby South Africa, Stefan Tablanche, at Rugby Sharks. There's just far too many to thank. So an update's now been given on it, and with all the work that happened from a 3-bed house in the middle of Milton Keynes all the way to South Africa, to Durban, to rugby clubs, private rugby clubs. Absolutely fantastic. Many people turned up at that hospital today to give blood.